friend. You're listening to The Sustainable Body Worker, the podcast for massage therapists who want to grow thriving, purpose-led businesses without the burnout. Here we talk about nervous system aligned business strategy, pricing that makes sense, client work that doesn't deplete you, and how to build a career that actually supports your life. I'm your host, Gretchen Pop, massage therapist, mentor, educator, and recovering overachiever. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Sustainable Body Worker. I am really excited to sit down and record this episode. I've actually been working on this one for quite a bit and recorded it once and realized at the end of that it did not feel complete. Came back, redid kind of the whole thing, and I've been sitting with this and chewing on this for a while, so I'm actually really excited to sit down and record this. This is a more comprehensive description of my personal experience with burnout, what that meant for me, and kind of my unique look on where it stems from based off of my own experience. Because one of the things that I hear so often from other massage therapists is this idea that burnout is just part of the job. Your body's just going to give out eventually working in this field. It's just a matter of overuse injuries, maybe the physical demands of our work. And at the end of the day, I get that. For a long time, I believed that too. And we've all kind of heard that same story about the average career span for a massage therapist being 7 years. We just kind of take that as truth. But when I look back at the start of my career, what broke me down wasn't just my body giving out physically. I was only 20 and relatively physically able. I broke down because my nervous system, my emotional resilience, and the way I was living, a lot of the way I was thinking as well, was setting me up for this experience. And I want to talk about that in depth today. And here's what I want to say up front, loud and clear, and let you in on this belief that I have. I don't believe that burnout is inevitable. Your body does not have to wear out from this work just because it's a lot of repeated movements or potential for bad body mechanics. Longevity and prosperity in this field is absolutely possible, and those two things are not mutually exclusive. But I do believe it's only possible if we stop treating burnout as a purely physical problem and start naming what's really underneath it. Now, I've been through the ringer several times with burnout, and I will share a bit about where it all began and how my relationship to it evolved, ultimately to the point where I am now developing this content and practical tools and courses for practitioners who want to get past burnout like I have. It was a bit of a windy road for me, but let me take you back to the beginning and share how all of this started for me. I started working professionally when I was 19, and I was fresh out of massage school and so ready to prove myself. After just 1 year in the franchise where I started, I was quickly promoted to therapist manager. I was overseeing more than 40 therapists, most of them much older and far more experienced than I was. And I was determined to show that I belonged. And honestly, I was just trying to fill shoes that were 10 sizes too big for me. I was a total fish out of water with this experience. The promotion meant that I was working even longer hours than I had been. I was bringing work home with me, working way more than my salary actually covered. And again, attempting to prove myself over and over again until I could not tell where my job ended and where I began. It took over my entire life. And there was no lack of passion for this work, what the job actually provided for me and for other people, despite how much it was killing me. At home, I often spent hours dreaming of building a beautiful wellness center. I would sketch floor plans and imagine creating something really meaningful. But my day-to-day reality was, to be honest, the opposite of wellness. I'd oftentimes have 7-hour shifts with very little breaks. Those of you in the franchise world know how this goes. I'd clock out often at 10 p.m. and then just crash in front of the TV when I got home or during any of my free time, honestly, because I was exhausted. And the truth that I can name and acknowledge now is I was not living a life. I was stuck in this survival cycle. And the cracks in this started to show really early, right? I was just 2 years into my career, not even actually, before this all really started cracking and exploding for me. Now, I had had chronic fatigue and mystery health issues since my teens. It was all very, livable. Like it wasn't obvious. It was always this invisible illness that wasn't really even clinically testable. All of it was misdiagnosed until I got on this quest for answers after this first burnout experience really broke me down. The fatigue that I had been feeling for years, honestly, I just thought it was normal and I worked through it all the time. I just thought that I had to push harder than other people or that it was just easier for other people. But when I experienced the promotion at the franchise, everything really came to a head for me. Suddenly, I started experiencing really severe anxiety about work. Also, my clients and coworkers. I started having really strange physical symptoms with no clear cause, a lot more overt than the mystery symptoms I was having before, and very different as well. I frequently had nightmares about being assaulted by clients, which made it very clear to me that I did not feel safe in my working environment. And this one time, even, I remember getting a rash on my arms right before walking into work, which mysteriously disappeared the moment I left and went home sick. My body was screaming at me, but I wasn't listening. I didn't know how to listen. And honestly, the culture that I was in had no room for listening. There wasn't space for mental health days. Again, those of you who've been in the franchise world know that the culture of franchise model doesn't always leave room for this. And I want to be clear, I'm not blaming all of this on the franchise model, even though that's where it all began, because as I'll share later in the part of my story, this all started happening again, even after I left that world and was successful and thriving. So stay with me here. But when I got this promotion, it happened at a strange time in my life in general, which brought a lot of emotional experiences to the surface as well. My grandfather had just died, and we never reconciled after a painful fight where he had actually refused to attend my massage school graduation, which was really important to me. Also, at the same time, I experienced the breakdown of a longtime friendship, and that was incredibly hard on me as well. So, overall, I was grieving. I felt isolated. I was exhausted from working so hard, and I was trying to hold everything together while also attempting to fulfill this role that I had no idea how to manage, especially with all the emotional pain I was experiencing. And I pushed through it, telling myself it was normal and not giving myself the permission to rest and rejuvenate myself. And this is the part of burnout we don't talk about. It is not just about posture and body mechanics and overuse injuries and tendon strains and all of that. It's the emotional storms that we carry while we try to act like everything is fine. It's the nervous system that can't come down from fight or flight. It's the way unprocessed grief or perfectionism or pressure silently erode our resilience until the body has no choice but to start speaking up physically. And that was the real beginning of my burnout experience. And it's why I'm here having this conversation with you today. Because if we don't start naming these deeper causes, we will keep losing incredible practitioners to the same cycle. But the part I haven't even shared yet, the piece that in hindsight was just as much of a factor in my burnout as the long hours and the physical exhaustion. When I was promoted to management, I suddenly had a front row seat to the way that this franchise and the corporate side of it actually operated. And what I saw was really hard for me to witness and be a part of just because of my own personal values. There were a lot of things that I witnessed, I heard, and I was asked to be a part of, which rubbed me the wrong way. It was not necessarily, it is never things that were illegal or anything like that. It just was against my personal values and the personal policies that I would operate things by. And I was deep in people pleaser mode, trying desperately to prove to the world that I could be successful as a massage therapist and as a manager. So I went along with it. And doing that for the amount of time I did, even though it was a short stint of time, this broke something in me. And this is when I started experiencing the pain. And this was the most excruciating pain of my life. Now, I didn't realize it then, but it's clear as day to me now. This was not just about the long hands on hours or being exhausted or lacking passion for the work. A lot of the breakdown for me was about being part of a system whose mission was in direct conflict with my own values. And that is a kind of burnout that we don't talk about enough. It's not, again, only physical or emotional overload. Burnout also happens if you're forced to work inside a business model that betrays what you believe in. When you spend your energy making something run that you don't even care to see exist. And for me, it showed up in kind of subtle ways. For example, I was trying to streamline systems to make work smoother. That was one of my priorities, but it was never valued. Sometimes it was actively kind of attacked in process as I was unraveling it. I also became a middleman for delivering bad news instead of being mentored and encouraged to be a conduit for collaboration. And I personally really wanted to help build a culture where practitioners felt supported, but I was witness to a system that viewed them and kept them replaceable. And this misalignment ate away at me. It just went against a lot of what I believed in. And this taught me something that I wouldn't fully realize until much later, even after building and selling my own clinic. Years and years down the road, when I had my own thriving business with a great team, making money, total control over policies and culture and all of that, I still hit the same experience with fibromyalgia, with the burnout. I could have pushed for 3 to 5 more years, honestly, to make it wildly profitable or even franchise it. And I was working on a system to set it up that way. But I had to face the truth. Even though I had made it, this system that I had built wasn't aligned with the life I wanted or the mission I cared about. And I've shared that story in detail in the 3 Days to Your Dream Practice workshop that I taught. And it's really, really common how often I see this happening. So if you want to learn more, you can check that out there. I go into depth in that story there. But for me, the point I want to make here is what clicked for me in realizing this. One of the deepest roots of burnout, and I've seen this in multiple practitioners, is not just overwork, it's misalignment or an energetic mismatch somewhere, whether it's values or policies or systems or goals or the mission. You can love massage and being a massage practitioner. You can love your clients. You can even love a team if you have them. But if the model you're working with doesn't match your values, it can erode you from the inside out. And this is why I'm so passionate now about helping body workers create businesses that align first with who they are before they start building systems around that. It's such a root of many issues that I see. So many of us try to fit in boxes that just simply are not our personal shape and eventually forces us to quit or do something different. Let's shift real quick to what my experience actually looked like, because it was actually completely different than what I would have guessed burnout would look like, and everyone experiences it differently. So here's mine. I personally remember it starting with walking down the hallway at work and suddenly feeling like my thighs were sunburned, really badly sunburned. The feeling of my pants brushing against my skin felt absolutely unbearable, like I had just spent hours in the sun without any sunscreen on. But when I looked, there was nothing to see. There was no redness, no rash, and it was just constant burning pain and sensitivity to touch. And then it spread to my arms and wrists. There's one spot on my wrist that for almost a decade stayed this sensitive to the touch, but I would feel the sunburn also down my triceps and along my ulna quite strongly when it all first started. And then as this progressed, the stabbing pain began. I would feel really sudden, sharp jolts. It was kind of like a hot, electrified poker rod zapping my joints really suddenly. In my shoulders, my elbows, my fingers, my shins, my toes were really bad. The stabs for me came every few seconds, super relentless at this one point for a consistent amount of time. They started slowly and got up to a place where they were happening every single couple of seconds or every second for a while. And sometimes they got so sharp that I would cry out from the shock. And at first, when it first all started happening with the sunburn sensation, I just kept working through it because that's what we do, right? We push through, we pretend it's fine. And when you're young, like I was, things like this are often temporary. And I had this mindset that it wouldn't last forever. But after some time, once the stabbing pain started and started getting worse, there honestly was no more pretending. And my boss did try to help me out by filing workman's comp. Since it began near my wrists, it looked kind of like an occupational injury. So we were trying to see if it was related to that, which kind of, I guess it was, but not in a sense that the occupational therapist could help me. And that's when I stopped the massaging altogether. And when I finally saw medical doctors, they prescribed me tramadol, which is a medication for fibromyalgia. And after taking just one pill of this, I ended up violently ill for weeks. When I told my boss that I was having this reaction to the medication, she asked if I might be pregnant. And when I told my doctor, they accused me of lying to get narcotics. They thought because I asked obviously for something else for the pain. And I honestly still remember how hopeless and how painful that moment felt. I was just this kid in unbearable pain, unable to work, and completely humiliated, being treated like a criminal, frankly. And I honestly can't even describe what that felt like. And this is something I want to name out loud because it's part of the story that so many practitioners live but don't talk about. Sometimes the medical system will gaslight you, especially if you have an invisible illness like this. They tell you that your pain isn't real, and that if you don't have a strong sense of your own truth, it's easy to start believing them. And for 2 months, I could not work. I laid on the couch. I was too weak to eat because I wasn't, eating anything. And then I was vomiting everything. And I was just completely convinced that this was my life now and I'd never get better. And frankly, that my body had betrayed me. And my mind went to some really dark places. I told myself that I deserved it. I thought that maybe this was punishment, karma for the unresolved fight with my grandfather, or the falling out with my best friend, or the resentment from the other therapists that I didn't respect me as their manager, the energy I had absorbed from some toxic clients that I had at this time. There were so many reasons that my brain was coming up with why I deserved this. And that's what unprocessed pain does. It turns inward. It whispers that it's your fault, that you deserve this, that you're unworthy of success. And the first flare for me, this experience, lasted 2 months, but the real effects of it lasted far longer. My wrists, especially that very one particular spot, was hypersensitive for almost a decade. Just brushing against them or wearing the wrong kind of long sleeve shirt could send that same jolt of pain through me. And looking back now, I can see what I wasn't able to see then. My body was not just reacting to physical stress, it was translating my emotional reality into physical symptoms. It was speaking the only language that it had, which was pain, because I didn't yet have the tools to understand my nervous system or to face the grief, face the fear, and the pressure that I was living under. At the time, though, I didn't have that kind of language. All I knew is that my life had completely collapsed around me, that I couldn't trust my body, and that even though I eventually left the franchise to start my own practice, the anxiety and the pain, all of those patterns followed me. Because when you don't address the root, the pattern goes with you. You know how they say if you move somewhere, you don't solve your problems by changing the location, it follows you around. Same thing goes with emotional pain. And when I came out of that first flare, I did what so many of us do. I doubled down on fixing my body. I thought if I could just get physically healthy, everything else will fall into place. So I went all in over the next couple of years. I had herbal medicine, I did acupuncture, I took all the supplements, I studied nutrition and did all of the healing diets. I eliminated allergens, healed my gut, did a whole protocol, worked out again. I cycled through protocol after protocol. I went raw vegan for a little while, did the blood type diet, AIP, all of it. If there was a protocol, I tried it. And for a while, it worked. I found a lot of things that worked well with my body, and I found things that did not necessarily support me. And my lab work looked a lot better. I lost 40 pounds. I had energy again, and all looked like everything was doing the right thing, right? And I even was able to reverse and start to get so much better with my autoimmune diagnosis. And I kind of thought I'd finally cracked the code, I'd figured it out. But then the flares happened again. They kept coming back. And this wasn't because I was slipping or failing or, cheating on my diets or anything like that. It's not because I wasn't disciplined enough. In fact, they actually came right when I was technically doing everything right. I was eating clean, I was moving my body, I was meditating, I was doing all of this personal development, and still the pain and the anxiety and the insomnia all returned. And that for me was the most maddening part because the wellness industry trains us to believe that if we do all of those things, then we will heal. If you eat the right foods, if you take the right supplements, if you follow the right routine, you'll earn health. But it honestly, it didn't heal me. It masked in a different way the problems, the actual root problems. It caged me in this sense of being terrified of making one wrong move. If I had one bite of bread, or if I had one night of compromised sleep, or if I missed one yoga practice, it would be just I believed it would take me back to square one, you know? And sometimes it did, but not because my body was fragile, not because that system was, needing that optimization. It was because my belief that I was fragile. And that became the script that my body followed. So I really want to highlight that and emphasize that because we're going to be going deep into that concept with this. It's not just physical. And so much of this experience rode on the beliefs I had about my physical body and my level of health.
Hey friend, pausing the episode real quick to share something I personally use and deeply believe in. If you're like most body workers I know, you've probably had those days where your nervous system is completely fried from back-to-back sessions, admin chaos, and way too much time hunched over a screen. Maybe you want to meditate, but your mind is racing. You want to ground, but your body won't let you. And that's where the In Harmony Practitioner mat comes in. This isn't just a relaxation mat, it is vibroacoustic therapy, which uses low frequency sound vibrations through the body to stimulate the vagus nerve, activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and reduce pain and inflammation. It's the real deal. I got mine back in 2021 for my clinic, originally for clients to use before body work or a sauna session, but honestly, I used it just as much for myself. It became my go-to regulation tool between client days and computer-heavy work, especially when I was struggling with back pain, insomnia, and fibromyalgia. This gave me a reset that was both physical and mental. And it's not just anecdotal either. Research shows that vibroacoustic therapy can do really amazing things. It improves heart rate variability, which is a key marker of nervous system resilience. It reduces cortisol and supports deep theta brainwave states, meaning calmer minds and better healing outcomes overall. And it helps with chronic pain, anxiety, PTSD, and even creative flow by resyncing your body's internal rhythms with soothing full body frequencies. It's also a powerful tool for your clients. I used to offer it before sessions to help clients drop into a regulated state, especially those who arrived overwhelmed, anxious, or overstimulated. You know, the ones who can't relax on the table until 30 minutes in. This helped them release their baggage at the door so that we could actually do deeper, more effective work from the start of their actual session with me. Some practitioners even use it during sessions to enhance results. I personally prefer to keep it separate, but I did love pairing it with herbal wraps, giving clients a way to receive deeply without being touched, which can be incredibly healing for trauma-informed care. And here's the thing. The nervous system is the entry point for transformation. If we can calm it, everything changes. For you, for your clients, for your business. And if you want to experience it for yourself or add it to your practice, head to iaminharmony.com and use my code NEURO5 for 5% off. It's a write-off for your business, and honestly, it's one of the best investments I've ever made. All right, let's get back to the episode.
I'll share one story. I remember one camping trip in the mountains that I had as a part of my graduation with my herbal medicine class. It was an incredible time, but one night of poor sleep in the tent caused me to feel a flare coming on so strong that I had to leave. And honestly, I was so incredibly embarrassed by this. It was incredibly challenging to explain what was happening for me. And I drove home. I think it was a good 4 or 5 hour drive. I drove home crying my eyes out to finally land at home in the bathtub. I remember actually I was texting my acupuncturist begging for an appointment because that was one of the few things that actually helped my flares. And the bathtub was the only place at my home I could feel any kind of mild relief when the flares hit me hard. And frankly, I don't even know if this night of poor sleep is actually what caused the flare, or if it was the anticipation of poor sleep and anxiety about another night in the tent, which switched me over the edge to the point of a full on flare. And guys, this was at the point where I had been studying herbal medicine intensely for 3 years and studying nutrition for almost just as long. And I'd been on a long road to physical healing. One night of poor sleep in a tent would not have done that if this was purely a physical problem. And this is the part of my story where I really want to pause and say something to anyone who's listening who's been on that same hamster wheel. If you've been doing quote unquote all the right things and your body still isn't cooperating, it doesn't mean that you have failed. It means that there's more to the story than food and supplements and exercise and mantras can touch. I didn't know it yet, but what I was really chasing wasn't health, it was regulation. It was a sense of safety. My nervous system was still in a fight or flight response. And I've shared in previous episodes and other formats how much this has affected me and how much I've gone through with that, especially over the past couple of years. But this fight or flight response was so deeply ingrained in me. It was still running the same perfectionist programs. It was still gripping onto old grief and fear that I had experienced. And until I addressed that, no amount of kale smoothies or yoga or gut healing tea was ever going to set me free. The real turning point for me didn't come from a doctor's office or a diagnosis or a new supplement or medication regimen. It didn't come from any of that. It came when I realized that my body wasn't just reacting to food or overwork, it was responding to my beliefs. And here's what happened. This was many years later. There was one day that I was doing some really deep journaling work on money and self-worth. I was writing out old stories, processing old shame, old fears, trying to let them go, forgiving the people I had associated with these stories, and coincidentally happened to be able to spend some time with certain family members that these stories were rooted with. So I had that exposure to these people while also being able to process and journal. I was doing a lot of intentional work around this at that time. And the very next day, I had one of the worst fibromyalgia flares that I had ever had since the beginning. And at first, I was absolutely furious. How could this be happening to me? I'm finally doing the inner work that is necessary for this to move, and my body punishes me for it. But then I realized it wasn't punishment, it was release. I had stirred up the pot, all the old programming that I had buried for years, and my body was processing it and letting it go the only way that it knew how, through sensation. And that's when I finally understood something that pretty much changed my life. Your nervous system is the filter for your reality. If it doesn't feel safe, it will keep you sick, keep you stuck, and keep you repeating the same cycles, no matter how perfect or seemingly perfect your routines or protocols are. And let me break this down for you because this is the part that I want you to walk away with today. We have a loop of subconscious beliefs that we live in. And for years, I believed that I had to do it all and I have to do it perfectly. These subconscious belief loops are what determine how we operate in the world. And so while I'm simplifying this quite a lot for myself, I have to do it all and I have to do it perfectly. This was the basic operating mode that I was living in. And that belief for me drove me to overworking. It fueled my anxiety and insomnia, and it kept me in fight or flight, constantly on edge. And the kicker for me is that the nervous system doesn't really care whether a belief is true or even if it's kind to you and treating you well. It only cares whether it's familiar because familiar feels safe, even if it's painful. And this was an operating system that I had adopted from childhood. So if you believe that you are unworthy, your brain will unconsciously create situations that prove it. It'll help you focus on all of any evidence that there is to prove that. If you believe your body is fragile, your nervous system will translate that into pain in order to protect you, or fatigue to keep you from pushing too hard, or flare ups to force you to rest. And that's not weakness, it is programming, and programming can be rewritten. So, I want to leave you with some actionable steps if this is resonating with you, because stories are great. Feeling like you can relate and have your experience be validated is important, but I want us to be empowered to do something about it. So, actionable step number 1 is noticing the underlying script. I want you to start by listening for the beliefs that are underneath your symptoms. What is the story that you tell yourself when you feel tired? Do you let yourself rest? Do you try to squeeze just one more thing in so that you can earn it? And then what do you believe when you're in pain? Is there any fear associated with it? Maybe a worry that perhaps work might be more painful tomorrow? And what is the thought that sneaks in when you rest? Are you able to let yourself enjoy it? Or is this the time when all of those pesky forgotten to-dos show up and push you back into action again? So as you ponder these things, don't judge it, just notice it. For me, it was always, you can't rest. You'll fall behind. You'll let someone down. Just keep working until the sun goes down. You'll rest when you're asleep. All right, so actionable step number 2 is regulate first. You cannot rewrite a belief if you're in a sympathetic state. That is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. Your survival brain does not care about affirmations. It cares about safety and getting you in a place where you cannot be harmed. And yes, those stressors, coworkers, situations with clients, all of that is a threat to the nervous system, especially when you're in that hyperactive state. So the first step is not positive thinking or doing those affirmations in order to rewrite those programs. The first step is to get out of the sympathetic state. So for me, the 2 most powerful tools that changed everything for me were the VU breath and hypnotherapy. So the VU breath is a vagal toning technique. This is a sound-based practice that calms the vagus nerve and brings me back into my body. This is something I've shared before, but it is simple as taking a nice big deep breath and then saying VU. And I'm so calm all of a sudden now. I absolutely love this one. And I have trained myself so much using this that it just automatically gets me in that super regulated place. And then hypnotherapy, honestly, this is such a fantastic way to work with the subconscious gently without any force. It bypasses that survival brain and it allows you to plant new beliefs where they'll actually stick. And the best thing is that it will only accept what feels good to your highest self. You cannot be programmed negatively in this way. And I really absolutely love that. And lucky for you guys, both of these tools are totally free and accessible to you right now. You can chant VU anytime, anywhere. And yes, some people might look at you weird. Who cares? You're chill AF when you're doing this. And then also there is a free customized hypnotherapy experience that you can try out that I made just for you guys. It's linked in the show notes. And this gives you a custom experience based off of where you are at right now. Okay, so actionable step number 3 is redefining your symptoms. So for me, when a flare shows up now, which is really super rare, but when it does, I don't treat it as a betrayal or let it send me down the fear pathway. I've learned to treat it as a message. Instead of asking, why is my body doing this? I ask, ooh, what's trying to show up here? What pattern might be ready to be released? Or what might I be doing that my subconscious mind is trying to make me aware of? This shift alone took me from living in fear of my symptoms to actually trusting them as something that my body is trying to alert me to. And this takes a little bit of building the muscle. So if you find yourself going down the old spiral and then catch yourself halfway, it still works if you remind yourself at that point to look at it differently. That's the actual work, catching yourself midway and rerouting. And soon that route won't be the default anymore. You've got to be really patient with yourself with this one here and watch how over time it does allow you to have a totally different automatic reaction to your symptoms showing up. Frankly, all of these steps take work. It is not the easiest work. I resisted this work myself for years because it felt so scary to slow down and look inward. And it brought flares the first few times that I did because it was my way of processing and finally feeling all of it and honoring that. And I didn't want that. But here's what I know now. If you want your business and your body to be sustainable, you can't just manage your symptoms and throw band-aids at it. You have to dismantle the beliefs underneath them. And for years, I thought that healing meant the absence of symptoms. I thought it meant getting to a place where I'd never have a flare, I will never have anxiety, I will never have fatigue. And I thought that if I just worked hard enough, I ate the perfect diet or did the perfect protocol, followed the perfect plan, was a perfect person, I could finally earn my way into a healthy body. But that wasn't healing. That was control. That was fear disguised as discipline. And today, my definition of healing looks completely different. For me, healing is not the absence of symptoms. It's the presence of relationship, a relationship with my body where I can listen when it speaks, a relationship where I'm curious instead of judgmental, a relationship where I don't panic at the first sign of discomfort, but instead ask, what are you trying to tell me? These days, flares are extremely rare, and when they do come, they're shorter, they're gentler, and they're always connected to a bit of an aha moment about something I needed to see. It's usually just a little zing somewhere rather than a full body experience like I used to have. And the best part is, they're no longer setbacks for me, they're signals. And that perspective shift changes everything. It means that I don't live in fear anymore. It means I can continue to build my business without worrying that one busy week will break me. It means that I can actually trust myself, trust my body when it speaks, and trust the path that I'm on. It's honestly why I'm so passionate about the work I do with body workers, because here is what I believe with my whole heart. I refuse to accept the 7-year career span as normal. I refuse to accept burnout as the inevitable cost of this profession. I refuse to believe that pushing, punishing, and perfecting ourselves is the path to healing. But here's what I stand for instead. Healing that includes the whole person, not just the physical body. Business is built on values and sustainability, not survival and sacrifice. Work that feeds and fuels your joy instead of just draining it dry. And a definition of success that honors your body, your values, and your life, not just your bills. Because the truth is this, you can have the absolute best business strategy in the world, but if your nervous system is still locked in the old patterns, the burnout cycle will keep repeating. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for our profession. And I'll leave you with one last little micro action step. If you're listening right now and your body feels like it's betraying you, if you're tired of chasing symptom after symptom like I was, just start small. Notice the beliefs that show up when you think about rest. You don't have to do anything more beyond that, but just get curious and see them. Notice what you tell yourself when you consider raising your rates or saying no to a client request or taking an extra day off or anything else you find yourself resisting on a regular basis. Get curious before you get critical. Curiosity is where the healing has a safe space to begin happening. Obviously, my journey did not happen and start in a calm, enlightened place. It began in chaos, in complete pain that I did not understand, and in flares that took everything from me. And I know many of you are there right now, trying to keep your practice alive while your body and mind are screaming that they cannot keep up. And if that's you, I want you to know this. That doesn't have to continue to be your story. If this resonated, I would love to hear what you think. Please know that it is me managing my Instagram and DMs and all of that. So if you ever reach out to me to share, I'm happy to hear about it. You can leave a comment on the podcast episode too, if you feel so inclined. All of your feedback is welcome. It's been truly an honor to connect with all of you in this way and to share my story. And if you feel so called, I want to invite you to share this episode with someone who might benefit from it. Not only does it help me with my mission of helping the bodywork profession become more sustainable, but it might just be the validation that someone else is needing to hear today. Wishing you all the best. So much love to you all. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to The Sustainable Body Worker. If something resonated for you today, grab your free breakthrough session, which includes a custom hypnotherapy track to help you unlock the next level. Grab it now with the link in the show notes. And to hear more, hit subscribe. I'll see you next time.